Good evening. Welcome to the Writing Gals podcast, where we are four sweet romance authors staying up late talking about writing. And right now it feels really late. I didn't even realize it was Thursday night until we got a message. Are we doing a podcast? And we're like, oh, yeah, we are. So we have been studiously planning this tonight's session, so be prepared to be wowed. But before that, we're going to talk about what we each have in store right now with what we're doing, because it's always fun. So go ahead, Victorine, tell us what you're doing.
All right, I've just finished the first draft of my next novel. It's called Her Big Fat Dreamy Billionaire Ex. It's about her ex-fiance, and I'm going through that and doing editing now, and I'm hoping to have that out beginning of June.
Awesome. And again, just a plug for her fabulous nonfiction book. She actually has two of them, but the most recent one is How to Write Swoon Worthy. That's hard to say. Sweet romance. So make sure you check that out. It's a fabulous book. We've heard very, very good things about it. I personally just get to learn at the feet of Victorine, so I just ask her. She tells me what I should do. All right. So Michelle, why don't you tell us what you're working on?
Okay, so I just published my next book in the Billionaire series, The Trust of a Billionaire, and sorting out my launch strategy, which I thought I had fairly figured out, but I kind of panicked a little bit because of the writing conference that we were all at, made life crazy. So I am hopefully getting things all lined up and together. And I've also been working on the second two book covers in my upcoming Song trilogy, which is my first fantasy trilogy. And that was super stressful and really exciting at the same time. So that's what I've been doing. Oh, and my Regency House Party posted another chapter this week, as always. So no writing besides one chapter this week, because that's what you do after writing conference. You come home and don't write, right?
Mm-hmm. So if you want to see her fabulous new covers, then go to her website because she has them up. It's very exciting. I think I could just live off of getting covers made. I just wish you could make a cover and then the book would become a book, and that's all you had to do, because I could just live off of creating covers.
Yep, I've just got one up there, but the last two I finalized this evening, so I'll get the other two posted tomorrow so you can see what's coming.
And it is an adult mermaid book.
It is a borderline mermaid book, which means I'm actually going to classify it as both. So, because as I've looked and researched the young adult category, there are a lot of protagonists that are 18 to 20 years old in the YA category. And I think that the voice fits young adult well. And so it's kind of like one of those things that could go either direction. So I'm going to go both directions. See how that works out.
That's what I did with my first book, because it's kind of the same thing.
Awesome. Well, now that you're unmuted, why don't you go ahead and tell us what you're up to?
So I've been working on the third book in my Ridgewater High series. I, still haven't finished that because I'm slow. So I'm about probably 25% of the way through that, and just getting, well, the girl just found out a secret about the boy, and a lot of the fun stuff is starting to happen that I'm excited about. So it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. And your billionaire book, how's that doing?
Oh, it's doing pretty good. It's doing the best out of all of my books so far. And so right now it's hanging out around the 2000 range. After it made it to 900, which is the best rank I've ever had so far. And then now it's at 2000, and I'm hoping it will stay for a while. So
yeah. That's awesome. I do want to make a plug that if anyone feels like sales are slowing right now, it's not just you. I feel that way, and I think all the writing gals feel that way too. I think it's just a slower time of year. We wish every month could be December and Christmas time, because that's always awesome. And then for me, I just finished the second book. Sorry, I had to think of how many books I had of my marrying series called Marrying an Athlete. And Victory, Michelle, and I are part of a Destined for Love series as a group. We all were challenged to write a book based in a resort. So that was very fun and challenging. I think for all of us felt that way. Me especially, because my resort was one that both were visiting, both main character, female and male. So they had to spend a lot of time together, pretty much the entire time. So it was hard to determine which scenes were more important than others, instead of just breaking them apart because someone had to go to work. But it's done and at the editor now. So thank you to all my beta readers. You guys were amazing. And then I just started the third book called Marrying a Billionaire. So of course I got to get my billionaire in there. And I'm excited about this one because I think it's going to be a fun one. And then the other thing I did is I have compiled all my billionaire books into a complete set with the hopes of getting a book bub. So any book bub vibes you have, send them my way as I cross my fingers and toes and hope that I will get one. So that
Can I just talk about the resort thing really quick? I forgot to mention that. Yeah, so mine that I just published was based at a resort in Destin, Florida. And I'm going to Destin on Saturday. So like in 3 days, 2 days.
No one's excited for you, Michelle.
I don't know if I count the third day of driving. No, so it's cool. Well, this is why I'm bringing it up, because I'm going to be in the town that I based my book in during my launch, which I think is totally fun, and I didn't plan it that way. So I don't know if I can do anything cool or not, but I'm going to try to do some.
You should have like located the local bookstore and like set up a book signing there. But I don't think Amazon could get the books to you in 3 days.
See,
so you're like,
this is what
I'll sign the sticker and then you stick it in the book when you get it in the mail.
I don't know. I might just go stand on the beach and say, hey, I'm here. I don't know.
Write the name of your book in the sand, and that will take you a long time.
I've actually got a video for my mermaid book that I did that last time I was in Destin on I think it's on my Facebook page, because it's set in Destin too. The first book is set in Destin. So I must like that place.
Just go to Best Buy and on all their computers, call up your book on all their computers.
Excuse me, ma'am, you need to leave the store now. What are you doing?
So you know that thing called guerrilla gardening where people plant gardens in crazy places? We should do guerrilla marketing. It's a new challenge from the writing girls.
We should like give a prize for the most unique place someone sends our book in. I just approved some people from Australia. So writing conference at your house, whoever you are that I approved from Australia, because we need vacation and places to go. We will all show up at your house. So awesome. Did you want to?
That's it.
Oh, perfect. My resort was based in Bora Bora. So it was very depressing to write because I was writing it during the blizzard in Minnesota of 2018. And I was like, this is not fair to be writing about crystal clean waters and sandy beaches when I'm getting dumped on by snow. So, and then I've decided I need to go to Bora Bora. So, writing retreat in Bora Bora 2019. Anyways, okay. So this last weekend, we had the fabulous opportunity to attend the LDS Storymakers conference in Utah. And if you are interested, they will be hosting another one next year, May 2019, the 9th through the 11th. And it is in Maybe. Check it out. Please make sure it is there before you buy your tickets.
We can maybe put a link or something.
It's that weekend because it's my daughter's birthday.
Okay, good. That's what I thought. And you do not have to be LDS to go. It's a fabulous conference with lots of networking. on a positive note, well, it's all positive, but I was a worker bee for the Writing Gals podcast and recruited lots of people to come on our podcast. So we're expecting very cool faces to show up, like Sarah Eden, Josie Kilpack, Jennifer Nielsen, Jeanette Rawlson, all of them fabulous. I tried to recruit Shannon Hale, but she very graciously turned me down. So it's all good though. You know, I figure you miss every shot you don't take. So I could ask, but it doesn't necessarily mean she's going to accept. And she didn't. She just basically very nicely said, well, I'm really busy and it's hard to get a hold of me. So, but I love our podcast and our podcast viewers, and we will be having these fabulous people join us. So be prepared for that. I'm not sure when, but hopefully when the Writing Gals Facebook page goes back to be, or YouTube page goes back to not hating us, but we might slip one in before then. So, but we thought we would come on and talk about our favorite classes from the conference, because we learned lots and lots. And for those who weren't able to go to the conference or have never been to a conference, we can kind of talk about what it is. Although I think we all agree that we definitely need to have a writing retreat where we just get to hang out and eat peanut M&Ms and write and talk, because we definitely did a lot of that up until like wee hours of the morning. So that will be fun to do. But I'm going to turn the time over to Victorine because she is not muted.
Oh, no. I forgot to mute. Oh, no. I'm first.
She gets to tell us her favorite class and why.
Oh, good. Then I can take the best one, right? All right. My favorite class was, let me get to my notes. My favorite class that I attended was Jennifer Nielsen's class, Deconstructing the Breakout book. And basically what she was talking about was looking at some of these huge blockbuster books that just did phenomenally well. And she compared them all to each other and what each book had in common with each other. And so some of the things that she said that these books all had in common were a lot of them had this high concept. What that means, and you can Google high concept and kind of look at that in regards to screenwriting and things like that. But basically what that means is you can say the basis of the plot just in a couple sentences, and it's something that immediately grabs you and makes you go, I really want to read that. So a lot of books like Da Vinci Code, high concept there. Harry Potter was high concept. Hunger Games, kids killing kids, you know, that's a high concept. Everybody wants to know what that book is going to be about. Another thing that she said all these books had in common were a lot of them had a strong mystery element weaved into the story. And I'm not talking about genre mystery. I'm talking about something that they planted at the beginning of the book that made you want to turn the page and figure out what was going to happen with whatever this mystery element is. All these books had very strong world building. They all had several quadrant appeal, meaning quadrants, she broke it down into kids in elementary is one quadrant, teens are another quadrant, adults 18 to 29 is another quadrant, and then adults 30 and over is another quadrant. And these are kind of the four quadrants. And she said, if you have 2 or 3 quadrant appeal, then that makes your book more likely to be a breakout novel. A lot of these books were unique on the market, something, a new twist to something familiar to you. So she went through all of these different books and talked about the things in them that caused them to have these different elements. And then she said, you know, a lot of it is luck and timing on when the books came out. And if your book has a strong tie-in to something like school curriculum or book club type a theme, or something in the news, that can make it be a breakout book. Or if your book is easy to, what she said was book talk, meaning if people can talk about your book in such a way that it's an easy concept to discuss, then that can be something else that can help your book create buzz. So I really, really enjoyed her class, and it really got me thinking about the story that I had in my head that I maybe want to write. All right, back at you, Amy.
Okay, sorry, I had to unmute, but my computer's being slow, so it was like, where's my mouse? It's not there. So I went to that class with Victorine as well. And if you don't know who Jennifer Nielsen is, like I did not know, she is the author of
The False Prince.
Not I was going to say the Fresh Prince, but I was like, that's not right.
No, wrong one.
The False Prince. So she is a YA author. And I also thought it was interesting. She compared a lot of the stories. Who did she say was, there was a guy who was gearing up, and then, but the other person came in and shot to the top. Do you remember who it was?
I don't know that I wrote that down.
I don't think I wrote that one down.
Sorry. You shouldn't have dead air, so we should be talking as we're doing this. Anyways, and she was also talking about like John Green and his book, how his first book he sent out was not a blockbuster, but then he wrote The Firm and then got Tom Cruise to read it. And Tom Cruise said, if this is made into a movie, I will act in it. And so that book just took off. And so then they went and remarketed his first book to say from the breakout author of The Firm. So she said another way to be a breakout book is to have someone famous read it and then offer to star in it. So if anyone knows Chris Hemsworth, the person from Australia, I want Chris Hemsworth to star in one of my movies. So please send him in my direction. And it was a very informative thing. And I think me and Victorine at least came out of it going, oh my gosh, we want to write a YA book, because it was interesting. And most of them, the books that she gave examples for were YA books. So I think YA has a bigger appeal. And then I thought it was funny how she said, when the tweens get a book, then it dies. So if 11-year-old girls saying, oh my gosh, I'm on Team Edward, and the 18-year-olds are like, I'm out. We're done. This isn't cool anymore. The tweens have killed it. So anyways, it was very informative, and I liked it as well as Victorine.
Yeah, I was there too.
I was literally in that class for like 4 or 5 minutes because I was late. And so I was standing in the back, and finally so many people kept coming in behind me that I got crowded out, got claustrophobic, and just stepped right back out again. So glad you guys went, but I was in there long enough to hear her say that right now there is nothing out there that's big. And so the whole industry is kind of waiting for the next big thing to break. And I thought what she said next was really cool. And she said, it could be any one of you.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really inspirational, just to remind all of us that, you know, we have the potential to be the next big thing. I thought that was great insight.
Yeah, and she not only said why that it could, she said, why not you?
Yeah, that's right.
I thought,
why not you?
I thought that was really powerful too, to make you think, why not me? Sorry, Judy, go ahead.
I was gonna say I agree. I loved that part so much, and then I also liked that that, you know, she went over all these books that are like these high concept books, and you know, saying the things that Victorine went over, like they had all of these things, but then that's not necessarily exactly what you need, because then there was The Fault in Our Stars that was not like that, but it still went huge. And the number one thing was that you need to write characters that your readers will have a strong connection to, and then also just make it an intense emotional ride. Like those are super important. And I was like, okay, well that's good, because I write young adult contemporary, so maybe there's a chance still.
Yes.
So,
well, she also said that, and pretty much every one of them has a love triangle, which I think is funny, because most people are like, I hate love triangles. But I'm like, man, those are the things that sell.
mm-hmm.
In like every romance, there is some sort of love triangle that has a popular book. She also gave the publishers, what is it called? Follow the publishers.
Publishers lunch.
Publisher's Lunch. So if you want to know what publishing people are talking about or what's breaking out or people are interested in, jump on that place. I think you have to pay for some of it. As soon as I got out of her class, I was like, okay, what is this thing? I need to find this out. But I think there's some that's free, but some that you have to pay for to kind of get into the know of what's being talked about. I think for me, I came out. Or are you done, Judy?
Oh, no, I was just going to say that, yeah, that's a great way to kind of find out what the next trend is going to be also, because, you know, they buy the books and then they publish them 2 years later. So if you do that, that's a great way to see the traditional publishers are buying, and then you can try to catch the trend and possibly beat it, because indie authors can go as fast as they can go. So I thought that was a great tip.
I think one of the best things that came away from that conference is you don't have to be one or the other. There is not white and black in the publishing world. You can, and I think we do that to ourselves. We think, I am indie and that is it. I can't be anything else. And that's not true. I met 3 authors, Kimberly Mon-Petit, Elena Johnson, and Cassie May. And all 3 of them are self-published as well as traditionally published. And I think that is so cool of how many options we have to do, where you look at a book, you write it, and you say, what is the best for my book? And so, you know, I'm sure thinking, well, why are 4 self-published indie authors going into a class about the next breakout novel about who, you know, being traditionally published? Because self-publishing YA is hard. And I think publishing companies know how to do it well. And if you write a YA book, why not try and get it traditionally published? There's nothing wrong with getting things traditionally published. And there's the same thing where there's nothing wrong with getting stuff self-published. So I think breaking down this wall that we've built up, saying you're on this side or you're on that side and you can't be both, is I think something that's really important. And I'm starting to see more and more acceptance of both sides. So I really like that about the conference and starting to learn that for myself.
Yeah, I really liked that too, because you know, I always had wanted to be traditionally published until like last year, and then I decided to be self-published, but then I like the idea of being able to still decide based on what I think would be best for my particular book and point in life, and if I want to be patient and wait.
And I think as readers, they help dictate what happens. And I loved the K-Lytics program I bought about urban fantasy. And I think it was the YA market, but it might have been for everything. I can't remember if it was specific. But he mapped out Bella Forrest, and we all see her books everywhere. Some of us have theories that it's multiple people writing under this pen name. But he showed a map about Twilight and how it just took off, right? And it was huge, and then it started coming down. And right when it was at about down here, Bella Forrest went ahead and started publishing her vampire series. And it just took off as well, and it started coming down. And then the Hunger Games, Maze Runner, Divergent thing happened, and it was that spike. And as it started coming down, Bella Forrest just jumped right on that bandwagon, and it went up and came back down. So publishing people are like, oh no, people don't want to read dystopian. Oh no, people don't want to read vampires anymore. And that's not necessarily true. So I think in that sense, indies have a good, we're good at jumping on the train as it's going by and keeping that train going. So I think that in a sense, the traditional market is not serving its readers in that sense, where it's just cutting it off and saying no more, nobody wants to read that, when in fact, well, look at the stats, people are wanting to read it. So, okay, we got off topic, but does anyone have anything else they want to say about it?
No, if we're talking about being a hybrid author, though, I would say to be very, very, very careful with the contracts you're signing with a traditional publisher, because they can literally chain your career into immobility. And so, I mean, you have to be very, very careful what rights you're signing away. And remember that your ability to write and publish what you want when you want is the biggest ability, the biggest factor in having a successful indie career. So don't give that right to control your publishing to somebody who does not have your career as their main objective. So just a little thing, because that's one of my fears if I was to look at traditional publishing. So just putting that out there for people.
And I think that's where an agent comes in handy to read that and negotiate those things for you.
But I think you have to be ready to walk away too.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right, Michelle, since you're unmuted, why don't you go ahead and tell us about your favorite class?
Okay. My favorite class was Infusing Story with Theme by Amanda Hill. And I'm kind of a theme junkie anyway. I love to talk about theme. And her class was really, really good. And some of her highlights for me was that infusing your story with theme allows it to become more of a heart book, she called it, like a really emotional experience. It makes it more timeless and more impactful. One of the suggestions she gives was to come up with a one-word theme. So one word that describes your theme for the whole story, and then to have a theme sentence. And to write those down. And for me, when I take a class at a conference, I always like to write notes according to the story that I'm currently working on, so that I can try to apply it better, because it helps me to learn what the teacher's teaching. And so I was keeping in mind my new mermaid book as I was writing notes. So it really helped me to think a lot about that story and what I need to do better, what I need to focus on. I think theme is really important in your planning stages. So I recommend, you can go back and edit to kind of infuse it back in there, but I think it's really helpful to do it in the planning stages. Themes should not be talked about. Like, you don't have characters being really, philosophical and talking about, home is where the heart is, or whatever your theme is, right? It's something that is a show don't tell aspect through the whole story. And you can have characters say something that is resonant as far as the theme goes, that kind of pulls the reader in that direction, but you need to be subtle with it, I think. And I think you also, and she mentioned this, you need to have something that refers back to, my cat just unplugged my computer. He's kind of going crazy because I just had my daughter's birthday party and I have tissue paper everywhere. Anyway, he's all hyper. Okay. So I think that it needs to be it needs to have touchy points all through the story that builds the conflict and shows where you're at in directing the story according to that theme that you're trying to pull everything towards. So I could probably go on and on and on, but I think it might be helpful to have a little bit of a suggestion, an example. So I took another theme class in Texas at the Lone Star Inc. conference when I was writing The Truth About Billionaires. And so in that one, my theme word was home, just the concept of what home was for these characters. And that's actually a common theme for me in all of my stories. And in that particular one, it's also in that class in Texas, I learned that the theme should also have an object that helps to use a symbol. It's like a symbol for your theme throughout the story. And in The Truth About Billionaires, it is my heroine's suitcase. And the suitcase shows her progression throughout the story as far as her finding where her home is, because she is a businesswoman who travels a lot and lives out of her suitcase. And so at the beginning, it shows that she is in need of one. And throughout the story, you see the different times that her story is starting to change. That suitcase is there to kind of show the reader, point the reader back to that idea that she's starting to realize that she needs to find a more permanent place. And her love interest begins to really resent the suitcase because to him it means that she could leave at any time. And I resolved the theme by him saying after he, spoilers, I hope you guys have all read my book, I'm sure you haven't. He says to her when they finally have their happy ever after moment that he wants to throw her suitcase away. And so that's just kind of an idea of how you can have a theme and how it can help you to push your characters down this storyline that you've already decided on for them. And by using an object, you can kind of direct your readers to that theme in a way that helps them to pay attention to it, even if it's only subconsciously, because I don't think my readers actually, are going to go, oh, she's pointing me back to her theme by showing me the suitcase. But it's something they're going to get in their subconscious. And so I'm just going to put out a little fun word or thing in my new book. The object of my theme is a wish bracelet. So fun stuff. Can you guys tell I could go all night about themes? So there you go.
So when you talk about your next book, you mean your billionaire one, not your mermaid one?
No, I mean both.
Both?
Well, when I was at this conference, I'd already written Trust.
Oh, okay.
I've already written Trust About a Billionaire. I was actually editing through the conference and when I could grab a minute. And so I was focusing on my mermaid one as far as how can I do this better in this one? So that was really helpful to me.
Yeah, I really like that idea of focusing on an object because I think I've been in classes and I never, I went to one called the objective correlative or I don't know, something like that. And I didn't understand what was going on until just barely when you explained that. So I'm like, thank you. I finally understand how that works. So
yay!
That is awesome. I'm like, I'm going to use that now that I know what it is.
I know. It's changed the way I write stories. It's really, really fun.
Yeah. That's
awesome. I wish I could remember the name of the teacher who presented at Lone Star Inc. who taught me that. Maybe I'll have to get some of my Lone Star Inc. people to tell me who that class was and I'll post it somewhere. Jen Johnson, are you listening?
Well, I think it's amazing that you're that purposeful with your writing. I just kind of sit down and throw up on a page. So I feel, wow, I'm totally not competent as you are to come up with something like that. But it does, when you say theme, I'm like, that makes absolutely no sense to me. But when you break it down like that, I can definitely see how that's really cool. So I wish I had gone to that class because I did not go to that class.
Well, unfortunately, it was at the same time as Victorine's six-figure indie class.
Oh, yeah.
Storymakers. And you guys were totally supportive of Victorine and went to her awesome class. And I was like, well, I see Victorine all the time, and I want to see.
So in your next book, Victorine, you need to dedicate it to me and Judy and not Michelle.
Now I see who my real friends are.
Yeah, well, the sacrifices we all have to make for
that's right.
Awesome. All right, Judy.
Scheduled everything wrong.
Yeah, next time have more of a say in it, Victorine. Be more assertive.
Next time I'll just be clear all the other, no classes except for mine. All right.
You're going to be the next keynote speaker.
That's right. You're forced to hear me.
Everybody at once. You don't have a choice, or you're not having lunch. All right, Judy, why don't you go ahead and tell us what your favorite class was?
Definitely Victorine's, being a six-figure indie author. I did like that one a lot. I was like, oh, okay, this is why I'm doing this, and this is awesome. So, I'd go into the details, but I think it's a lot of what we've already talked about in the other things. And Victorine, if she wants to share more of it, she'd probably be better than me saying what, because it was her class. Another one that I really like, so my absolute favorite was the one we already talked about that Jennifer Nelson did, because that one was amazing and super inspiring. Loved it. But another one that I really liked was Elena Johnson's, which was, let me see what it was called, 30 Days to a More Productive You. And that one, when I saw she was teaching it, I'm like, oh, this is going to be amazing, because I stalk her on Facebook and see just what she is doing, because she's
We
amazing.
all do. We all
I
do.
know.
So now she's gonna see this podcast and know we stalk her.
We
But
heart
with
you,
love.
Elena.
With lots
Well,
of
I just,
love
like-
and respect.
Yeah. Well, I just have seen like her posts every like once in a while, seeing like how many words she wrote that month or something. And I was like, how is that even possible? Because she also works at a school like 28 hours a week. And I was like, nowhere close to that. So yeah, like just going to that was really inspiring to see what you can do. You just have to, make a plan and get organized and make goals and just go for it, and not like set limits on yourself, because a lot of the time I'm like, well, my kids are home. I can't write. I have this going on. I can't write. It takes me like an hour to get into the writing mode. I don't have that much time, so I can't do it. Or just just all kinds of excuses. And she just helped us learn that you don't need to listen to those excuses anymore. Just do what you can. Because like she watches TV and writes at the same time, and I'm like, how is that possible? So that's been cool. And so I've been letting my daughter watch TV while I write, and I've been able to write. Not that I've been super interested in Paw Patrol or anything, so whatever. So it wasn't as distracting as maybe a show I really loved. But yeah, I really like that. And then another thing I loved was part of her challenge is to, set your word count goal for the day and then up it by 500 words. And so all of this week I've been doing that. Like before I went to the conference, I'm like, my goal is to get 2,000 words a day. And so instead of doing 2,000 words a day, my goal has been 2,500 words a day. And this week has been like my most productive week in a really long time. And so it's really been helping me, and just also actually keeping track of my word counts, because as you might have heard on a previous podcast of ours, I didn't keep track of what I was doing or how much time I was writing. And a lot of that was because I didn't want to create like a document to keep track of it, because I didn't know how to use spreadsheets, and I don't know how to fix them to do certain adding things. That was like years ago in high school that I learned about that. And so she shared these word tracker spreadsheets. I think that's what she called them. Yeah, word tracking spreadsheet, and then a website where she has hers, and it's amazing. I've been keeping track of it. I can show. I don't know where it is on my computer, but I can put the link for that at the bottom of this when I upload it onto our real channel. Just because that's been super helpful for me too, just to kind of actually keep track and see what I'm doing. And then you can also like just keep track of like because every one of us is different, and you can see like what time of day you're most productive at, and just what's going on in your life, and just kind of get to know yourself as a writer, which I really liked. Because she said, you do you, I'll do me, that kind of thing. Like, you're not going to be like the person next to you. Like, I'm never going to be as fast as Amy. And so you just got to do what you can do, and just compare to yourself and how you were yesterday, and just keep getting better than you were the day before. And yeah, so I really liked that one. That was awesome.
But I'm a testament to that thought of you can actually write more than you think you can. I mean, I started out writing just 2,000 words, and then I upped it to 3,000. And depending on where I am in the book, I can get 5,000 words out. So 500 words seems like a mountain to climb, but it's really not when you think about how many words it actually takes to fill up a scene. And then getting started in there. I think it's also important to note that Elena writes the same genre. And so the more you write in one genre, the faster you can get in it, because you just totally innately know what needs to happen next to write it. Now, I started trying to write a YA series, and it's definitely taking me a lot longer, because I'm writing the first chapter and I'm like, nope, that's not right. And then I go back and fix it. No, that's not right either. And then go back and fix it. No, that's not right. So, I mean, once you start knowing how a genre, what expectations they have and things like that, then it gets to be a lot faster.
Yeah, definitely. Because I found that with my own experience. Because my first book, 2 books took me 5 years. Then the next was, they kept getting faster and faster. So that's definitely a good point.
And I was totally going to say something, and I can't remember what it was. I like Elena Johnson a lot. She's the one that I quote who says she's probably the biggest component of you can't be black or white. You can be in the middle in terms of being published. So she's hybrid, she's indie, she's traditionally. And I was like, that's just awesome that you don't look at it as, well, I'm team this or I'm team that. It's my book is what it needs to be, and I will do what it needs to have happen for it. So
that was the basis of her keynote speech at Midwest Conference in Kansas City last year. Yep.
Perfect. Does anyone want to say anything to being more productive? Or
I just finished my book in the fastest time ever, and I never, 2 years ago, would have thought I could outline, write, edit, and publish a book in 6 weeks. And so it's just more of that. You can do it. You can find ways. You can make it happen. And it's all, I think, to a great degree, just training your mental muscles to do it.
well, and I think Elena? She said, I didn't feel like a writer because I didn't write X amount of words or something like that. And I think even if you're not a self-published author or you're trying to go the traditional route, you still haven't been published yet, you still have to have a mindset of, I am a writer and it is my job to do this, and I will make it a priority. Because I think it's easier when you're making money to say, okay, yeah, this is a priority because it's making me money. But if you're not at that point yet, you still need to take yourself seriously enough to say, I am a writer. This is my passion, and I will have time. I will make time to do this because it's important to me.
Yeah, for me, for example, sorry, Judy, I gave up television. I gave up sewing to a great degree. I just, I didn't want to sacrifice my family or, things that are higher priority than my writing. But I looked at my life and I saw the things that were not as high of a priority for my writing. And I saved those for times when I need a break. And the rest of the time when I need to write, I put those to the side and they'll be there waiting for me. I'll shut up now, Judy, if you want to say something.
Oh, I don't know if it pertains anymore, but I liked that when Amy had said about Elena also is, there's this thing that goes around the writing community that you're not a real writer unless you write every day. And I love that, she's like, I write if I want to write, and if I don't feel like it, I don't force myself to. And even going on the day that you're writing, you get to know when you're done. And when she's done, and she doesn't try to force the words to come out anymore. And that'll take some trial and error, because sometimes you'll think, am I really done? I'm going to try that. And then if the words come out, then you weren't really done. But if you are, don't force it, because those you may get another 500 words, but did it take you 2 hours to do that? And is that really the best way to spend your time? So that was another good point, because I've had goals to make. I'm going to get 5,000 words today, and I can get up to 3,000, and then the next 2,000 will just take me forever. That was not worth it. And then the next day, after forcing myself, I can't write the next day. It's just done. So for me, I've learned that I do a lot better if I just have a steady pace, and then I can just do it, and instead of getting burnt out on a big, huge day. So yeah.
Can you imagine if that's how we treated everybody? You're not a real plumber if you do not plumbing. I don't know how you put that. Every day. And you're not a doctor unless you're performing surgery every day. You know what I mean?
That is a good point.
And I think we all need to be able to just let ourselves find our process and our philosophy and our track in life, and embrace it and not be ashamed of it, And I think that's, what she's saying and what all of us need to understand. We may do things completely different than even, so we can take her class and learn her strategies and her philosophies on things and have completely different ideas on how we want to do it in our life. And she'd be the first one to cheer us on, right? Because none of us can do what anybody else is doing, and we shouldn't try to, but we should be always trying to figure out how to be our best person.
To push yourself.
Yeah. And I want to also say, like, the great thing about productivity is that it doesn't have anything to do with the quality of the work that you're turning out. I see so many times people think that the quality goes down the faster you push it out. And in my experience, it's just absolutely not true. My writing's getting better. My books are getting better. I think the more words you write, the more stories you finish, the better you're going to be. I mean, it's training. And just by speeding up the process of learning, is not keeping you from doing it. I think you as a writer are always in control of whether or not you're trying to up your game with every book. And that means not just like how quick, but how well you're learning the craft. And so if the quality of your book is going down or somebody else's book is going down or not getting better, it's because you're not focusing on the craft of writing as much as you are the speed of writing. And so we have to kind of balance these two, goals and see if we can get them to both move forward at the same time instead of one of them falling behind. So,
very true. Victorine, did you have anything you want to say?
I just have another favorite class if we are going to talk about a second one.
Yeah, go ahead. Why don't you tell us?
My other favorite class was from Jennifer Moore. She did hero and heroine archetypes. And before she started the class, she showed this book on the screen. Is it backwards for you guys?
No, it's right.
That it's called The Complete Writer's Guide to Heroes and Heroines, and I came home and bought it, as you can see, because the class was so good, and it was just talking about different character archetypes, like the bad boy. You know the bad boy character when you see him in movies and stuff, or the best friend character, or the spunky kid character, and she went through and talked about all these different things that make your characters. Like the bad boy, he's always misunderstood. He's the guy with the chip on the shoulder, but he's charming. He's like Jack Sparrow. He's really street smart and kind of comes from a rough home life, and he gets in trouble a lot, but you really kind of like him because he's got this charm to him. And so she talked about all these different archetypes and how you can put two different people together and how they kind of like tropes, how you can play them off each other and fit them into your story to make different dynamics. And I thought it was really interesting. Excuse me. And so I bought the book and I'm going to study more about it and plan more about my character, because I kind of write exploratory, write my characters, kind of pants them. But I think I'm going to try writing a book where I pick these archetypes on purpose and play them off each other on purpose. And so that was one of my classes I really enjoyed.
And we can create a link at the bottom of the podcast, so you can just click right on it and they'll take you to Amazon. Heroes and Heroines. That looks super fun. I kind of want to buy the book now. So I'm interested to see what that talks about. I was like, oh, I don't need to go to the romance classes. I already know how to write romance, but now I kind of wish I'd gone to that one.
It was great. I loved it.
Okay, so the one that I liked, and I kind of thought it was funny that I took it in the sequence that I did, took two classes. So the first one I took was called Leveling Up Your POV by Josie Kilpack. Sorry, I always want to call her Kilpatrick, and they say that's not right. And then right after that, I talked about how to construct short stories with Charlie Holmberg, who agreed to be on our podcast as well. So very exciting. She is traditionally published through 47 North, the Amazon imprint. So anyways, and I thought it was really interesting because I was like, oh, I know so much. See, look at this. This is the problem with me. I go in thinking, oh, I already know all about this, but then reality slaps me in the face and says, no, you don't, Amy. Stop being so cocky about this. So it's interesting to listen to her talk about the 5 levels of POV. The objective, the action, thoughts, emotion, and then deep POV. And then the first one, objective, is outside of the character, similar to omniscient point of view. It doesn't share the character's thoughts. The pacing is slow. The narrative distance, meaning how close you are to the character, is a 10. And the POV barely registers as characters, if at all. And so they talked about this is a good way to start a scene, and this is a good way to establish setting. Number 2, action outside of the character action draws the eye to the reader, the eye of the reader to the point of view character. The action can reflect characterization, can be paced from slow to fast, and the narrative distance is a 7 to a 9. So this is good for the scene portion of scene and sequel. So if we talked about the scene and the sequel, the scene is the building blocks of a certain part of the story, and the sequel is the things that bring it all together. So the action portion of the point of view helps make those building blocks of a scene. So they went to here, they did this, they went there, they did this. So number 3, thoughts. Most common point of view, you're inside the head of the point of view character. Thoughts and perceptions connect reader to character. Pacing can be slow to fast. The narrative distance is to 5 to 7. So here you have the characters asking themselves questions. Is a good place to put characterization in, and the sequel portion of scene and sequel. And this is where you'd also talk about the backstory and the goals. Number 4 is the emotion. So you're inside the head and heart of the point of view character. Emotion and feelings connect the reader to the character. Emphasis on the inner world. And the pacing is moderately fast. Narrative distance is a 2 to a 4. So you want to make sure in here that you're not getting lost in the inner thought. Reserve emotional level point of view for the character. So you wouldn't want to have the emotional level of like a side character that doesn't really matter. And then it can be expressed through actions. It requires the author to know their character well. So in this instance, that would be a good place to have that book that Victory was just talking about. And then number 5, deep point of view. The story is seen through the lens of the character's inner world, utilizes action, thought, and emotional POV together. Pacing is fast and short sentences, and the narrative distance is 1. Obviously, that is not what you want to keep your kids, or not your kids, God, listen to me, keep your character in and your readers in all the time, because they would come out of it emotionally exhausted. But after taking this point of view class and then going into the elements of a short story, the anatomy of a short story. So Charlie Holmberg is they have a science fiction and fantasy newsletter or magazine that they put out where they actually pay for short stories. And so they were kind of breaking down what's in a short story, why is it important, or like how to hit those important places in a short story. And so I thought it would be interesting to take the point of view that I learned from Josie Kilpack class and keep that in mind when you're writing a short story, because I think you can always get the pacing wrong or the things just don't quite feel right with a short story. But I think as you're moving a story along and keeping in mind starting out farther away and then honing in more on the deeper point of view than to bring the characters back out of that, I think is an interesting way to do, to apply both things to help make your short story even better. But I liked that idea of how to make your point of view characters and the point of view you're using better, and how to mix it so you're giving your reader a overall experience and not just always up here doing the scenes but never giving really the emotional impact that a story can have, or you're so in the emotion and you're so in the deep point of view that your character's like, oh my gosh, I'm so exhausted, I can't read this book anymore, which is how I felt about Harry Potter in book 5, which is why I closed it and I didn't read any more Harry Potter books, because I could not stand him. I'm sure she was much better in point of view, but I was like, I just want to reach into the book and smack him because he's annoying me. So anyways, but I will bow to J.K. Rowling because she's a fabulous author and we love her. But anyways, so that's
now made a whole bunch of Harry Potter fans her mortal enemies.
I'm sorry.
I am not affiliated with Amy any longer.
You love me. I'm sorry. I couldn't stand him. And everyone's like, she wrote a 15-year-old boy so well. And I'm like, no. There's just some things that you don't talk about in books because everybody wants to assume everybody's happy and go lucky, and I don't want to be in the head of a 15-year-old boy. I'm sorry.
I haven't read The Hunger Games. Let's all make our book confession. What have you not read?
I have read The Hunger Games and Twilight, but not after the 5th Harry Potter book. I stopped at like a page 100. Well, and I was reading it and I was like, oh my gosh, I have like 600 pages more to go. And I was like, Dad, I'm done.
Okay, I have my confession to make. It's not just The Hunger Games. So for fantasy people out there, I read the entire Robert Jordan Wheel of Time series, which is, I've even lost track of how many books there are in that. 16 maybe, and they're all like at least 800 pages long. I read them all, but never finished the last book. The pinnacle of the whole series. I read the first half and then had to leave on vacation, and I've never read the last half of the last book of this enormous series.
Oh,
That's
man.
Oh my gosh.
Where was his editor on this book? Obviously, it was not a page.
So it was actually Brandon Sanderson writing that one, because Robert Jordan passed away before he could finish the series, and Brandon Sanderson was finishing it, and it wasn't, I don't know, kind of an intense book because it was like one giant battle through the whole entire book, and I think that might have been why. Anyway, I have to say one more thing about the conference. I know we're like out of time. So my favorite parts were not necessarily just the classes, but between classes, when we just got to meet a whole bunch of you guys that were there, which was really, really awesome. But also just getting to stop and talk with other authors and being able to compare notes and being able to discuss what we learned or what we're, planning to do in the future or what they'd already done, and just, touching base with people I hadn't seen for a while. So I really think that there is so much merit in authors being able to stop and talk to each other. And that's one of the things we really like to use this podcast for, is just to be able to have that conversation with each other and invite you in to share it with us, because I think that we just learn from each other so much. And so for those of you who I was able to visit with during the conference, I really appreciate that opportunity too.
Yes, I agree. That was wonderful.
Yes, it was awesome. So I think for me, that was my favorite part, which is why I'm like, we just need to go on a retreat and then we can all just hang out, and it won't be, oh, I got to go to this class. I got to go to this class. I got to go to this class.
Yes.
Well, we will be teaching at a conference coming up, right, Michelle?
Yes. So the Midwest Conference, it is sponsored by the Storymakers and by Indie Author Hub, will be held in Kansas City. I think it's September 21st and 23rd through 23rd. And it's a great conference. It's the first one I ever went to, and I've been 3 other times before. And me and Amy and Victorine are all teaching 2 classes each there. Registration's now open, so we're going to put a link. We would love it if we could get a whole bunch of our Writing Gals audience to come to the conference, because not only will we be teaching there, but we think we might try and get a get-together, so we can meet everybody in person. We would love that so much. So
just not in the shady parts of Kansas City.
Yeah, well,
there was a shooting.
We've already had our Kansas City, adventure. I don't think we can repeat it. So we were going to talk about what we're all teaching, so you guys can kind of look forward to what we're going to be teaching. And we have no control over the schedule because none of us are in charge of anything.
Oh, it's out now.
Oh,
is it out?
Yeah, it's up on the website now.
Okay, so we can see. Maybe you can start seeing if you can.
You just need to pick who your favorite writing gal is.
Yeah,
and then that's who you go see.
You're not allowed to go to Victorine's class if it's at the same time as mine.
And apparently I alienated a lot of you by my anti-5th book of Harry Potter speech.
Well, I just alienated the whole Hunger Games crowd. Okay.
And Wheel of Time crowd. Come on, you got double whammies against
you. I'm in trouble. Okay, so I'm going to be teaching a class called The Indie Advantage. Explore the many facets of getting your story into the reader's hands as an indie author, including often unconsidered benefits to self-publishing. For those who are weighing their publishing choices, we're going to talk about all of the things that you can need to factor into that choice, and why you might choose to do both, So it's basically a talk about all the business advantages of being an indie, which I am a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Really excited, but like
Gung-ho.
gung-ho. I push it in people's face all the time. Okay, and I'm also going to be teaching endings that sell your next book. So learn how to write story endings that are deeply satisfying to the reader, but also ignite a craving for more. From understanding reader expectations to blowing their minds, learn techniques for crafting the perfect conclusion. And this book is not just about trying to get them to the next book in the series or anything like that. So I was reading Craig Martell's book, and he said something that I loved, which is most authors try to sell one book to 10 people when authors need to be trying to sell 10 books to one person because it's an easier sell. And so once you have a person hooked, then it's easier to sell all the rest of your books to them. And so if you are able to have a reader step away from a book completely satisfied and excited and kind of on that high that you always get, they're going to automatically think, what else do they have? And go, turn around and go see what is in your backlist. So I'm really kind of excited to teach both of those classes. One's more craft and craft and business. So what are you teaching, Victorine?
I am teaching a new class that I haven't ever taught before called So You Want to Make Your Own Covers. And it's all about simple tips and tricks that I use when I design covers and how you can take what I do and copy what I do and make good looking covers yourself. And it won't be super technical. I'm not going to talk a lot about Photoshop and stuff like that. So hopefully what I'm teaching will apply to whatever you use when you are designing your cover on the computer. And the other class I'm teaching will be a repeat of what I did at Storymakers, which is the 6-figure indie author, talking about writing to market and how to write a book that sells itself instead of writing a book that you have to constantly try and market, and you feel like you're swimming upstream sometimes with these books that you, and I have one, I have several that I've published, and I market them and they just don't easily sell. And so my class is all about how to write a book so that it will easily sell and flow upstream for you.
Awesome. And then I am writing 2 books. And the first one is what does your reader really need to know? Essential backstory at the beginning. Basically, you're going to come learn how to take your info dumps and spread them naturally throughout the story so that you not only keep your readers interested, but you leave them wanting more and not distracted. So hopefully I can gather enough information to make it a good class. I'm a little nervous about this, but as we have learned from the podcast, I like to talk. So hopefully it will be okay. And then the second one is writing blurbs, log lines, and ads that sell. So now you've written your story. How do you drive traffic to your product page and learn how to write enticing blurbs, log lines, and ads that not only attract your reader but boost your sales? So we'll probably go over a little bit of all the places and the categories that you can put your books in or sell them on. Not categories. Avenues? No. What would you call that?
Platforms.
Platforms, yes. So come and be
find my word.
entertained as I try to
find my
teach
word.
this class. And how to write things that will make people want to buy it. So hopefully you come and support me, and if not, just smile at me. And like,
Amy's a pro. Amy's a pro at all that copywriting, for sure.
I try.
She is. She's good. We all go to her when we need to write our blurbs and stuff.
I do it very, very hesitantly because I know she's always going to make me rewrite whatever I've done. So I'm always like, this is painful to write in the beginning, and Amy's going to make me do it all over again.
Hey, but I don't just be like, I'm not like, this is terrible. I'm like, this is terrible, and this is how you can change it. Do you guys know if we had any YouTube questions?
I haven't seen any questions.
Okay.
Just lots of really fun comments.
Oh, I'm excited to read them then.
I think that Julia wanted to know, Amy, did you need more time, or for when you said you wrote up to 5,000 words instead of the 2,000 words a day, did you use more time, or were you able to write in the same amount of time?
I think I took longer, or I obviously took longer, but I was able to be more productive with the time that I did have. And I think sometimes knowing you don't have to sit down and write 5,000 words all at once, 500 words throughout the day adds up. It's like what they say about doing crunches or doing exercise. You know, you don't have to sit down and exercise for 30 minutes. You can exercise 5 minutes in intervals. And I think that's what's important. Instead of saying, well, I didn't get my writing time in for today because I normally write from 10 to noon, then my whole day is shot. And you're like, no, you have half an hour chunks without the day that you could have time to write. So it definitely did take longer, but I am faster at getting, I think when we do sprints on the writing sprints, I think I can do in 15 minutes, I can do 600 to 700 words in the
That's
15
fantastic.
to 20 movements. But
Yeah,
it also
you're way
depends.
faster than me on that.
And I usually get like 400 in that time.
I know, and I'm like embarrassed to post my 250.
So it just depends. And I think if I think both if Victory and Michelle push themselves, they could definitely. But you don't want to push yourself so much that you're just going back and deleting all the words.
Yeah,
I do want to push myself more because I do think that if I can, if I set a timer and shut off the internet and make myself, I can put faster words down. I can do it.
Yeah.
I just need to get that motivation to push.
Mm-hmm. But if you meet Victorine in person, she's just such a relaxed person that when she tells me she writes that, I'm like, it's your personality. You're just like, okay.
I think my case is a pretty good combination of me not having to go back and edit as much.
Yeah, that's
But
me too.
I'm hoping that will improve as I get better. That I'll be able to write faster and still keep the more, proficient writing as well as the quick writing. So
yes.
Yeah, we just had a question on if any of us dictate. Do any of you use that still or not?
I try, but I don't really. I can't. I like it takes too long to figure it out, and then I'm like, this is writing time. So when my life slows down, I'm determined to try because I'm sure I'll probably ruin my wrists at some point and need to dictate for health reasons. But
yeah, I'd like to get to where it's better at it. I know Judy's a pro, so before she tells us how awesome she is, she was telling us how to do it and how to get like the right microphones and this sort of stuff. I think I dictated about half of my Truth About Billionaires novel. And I did so much more editing when I was dictating. So it's a skill I'm going to have to get better at. And I think that just takes time and practice to get my brain to work that way. But I think it's something I definitely want to pursue just because I don't want to end up crippled or with carpal tunnel or anything like that. And I think it will help with my writing times. So it's my goal. All right, now Judy, tell us how awesome you are.
I haven't done it for a little while, but like I did use it for about half of Meet Me There, which was really awesome, especially when I had scenes that I wanted to write that ended up not fitting. I was able to just get those done fast and figure out that they weren't meant to be. But I do find that if I do dictate, and I can get out like twice as many words in a sprint, and it is just so much faster. It's just actually getting out the dictating stuff.
See, my goal is to have that person. You remember that British, like, what was it? It was like a little clip where the lady, like two guys, and they're dressed up as women, and she's like, and they went down the toboggan and said, wee! And then he's like, e, and she's like, how many words is that now? And I was like, that's my goal. I'm going to lay on my sofa and dictate to somebody who's typing it for me.
Yeah.
So if anyone volunteers, you can come to my house. You can be that person for me.
I just had an epiphany though. What if I use dictating in my outlining stage? My gosh. Because like it does help me to talk out loud because I simply walk around my house talking about my story out loud when I'm trying to figure it out. I should just plug up my stuff and like get it all recorded. Oh my gosh. Yep. Well, this podcast just changed my writing.
Changed my life. And now I'm going to.
That's exciting. I'm going to try that.
Yeah, I like it because like when I last fall, my daughter had stopped taking naps for a little while, and so I would just get in the car and go for a drive and dictate because it I don't know, it just helps my brain if I'm actually like moving around when I'm dictating instead of just sitting there still like that. Is harder if I'm not looking at the screen. If I am dictating right into the computer, then that helps too. But if I'm just dictating into like my digital recorder, it helps to walk around and get my brain moving. And yeah, so I really like it, and I need to do more of it so I can be fast like you.
I do too. I would like to learn how to do it. I have done it. I feel better when I'm dictating right to the screen because I can see any mistakes and delete it. Because sometimes in critique groups, we're like, what was I trying to say? I don't know what I was trying to say in that sentence.
But sometimes it's fun.
Sometimes you get some good golden nuggets in there. We're like,
We still have to make our post about all of our fun things that we've all written.
What was mine? She wasn't skinny or curvy.
So what was
Michelle's
she?
like, is she a block? What is she? Poor girl. It's like, yeah, that's not my proudest writing moment. My poor character. I was torturing her.
But I have
Anyway.
found with dictating, like I used to try to like, because they say, it's best to, because it learns with you as you go. And so it's best to supposedly correct it through your microphone to the computer. But I found that just took me so much longer. And I'm just better if I just don't save my profile and just fix it with my keyboard. And that helped me speed up my dictating a lot faster.
Yeah, I noticed that it's like any kind of technology where you're like, select 4, number 2, and then it's like, I did not understand. Well, it doesn't talk back to you, but I could kind of feel like it's like, I did not understand that. Please repeat. And you're like, I said this. Why are you listening to me?
Yeah, so I have a profile that it's my garbage profile, but it works. And because I have a good microphone, it understands me pretty well if I'm speaking clearly and I have it set right. So yeah, that's another trick that I'm happy that I learned because it was taking forever the other way.
That can be my goal for 2019. When I have a good base amount that I'm making consistently every day, then I can say, okay, I can fiddle around with Dragon and really up my game. Because it makes sense, and it makes sense it can be faster, but it's something you have to learn. And there's something that I think for me that's visceral about the in your brain and then out your fingertip type of thing, instead of in your brain and then out your mouth and then on the page and then now you're on your fingertips. So
yeah, well, and it just takes practice too, just to get used to it. And then once you do, it's okay.
Well, awesome.
We didn't know we'd have enough to talk about tonight, but clearly we did.
I know. I was like, ladies, do we really have that much to talk about? But we filled up our hour and then some. So go to the store, go to conferences. They're very important. Not only do you network as writers, we're naturally introverts. So it's good to get out of your shell and go hang out with other writers and meet people and be entertained. And they're very important. Come to our conference that we're teaching at, the Midwest Storymakers Conference. If you need more information, shoot us a question on the Writing Gals group, which is just growing every day, which is amazing. We're very, very excited about this. And just
I think we
networking.
should just do a post. Just let's tell people we're going to do a post about the conference with the registration link and
we'll probably do lots of posts and threats. Sure. And you know where you live.
Threats. Oh my gosh.
You must come to the conference or you will leave. I'm just kidding. So
even if you're in Australia or Canada or
but if you meet me face to face and I tell you we are making a retreat at your house, I mean it. I'm very threatening. I kept saying, okay, guys, every class you go into, you have to ask that person to be on our podcast. And how many people?
I said, nope.
I said, nope.
It's like, it's not hard. You just go up there with your little tag and you say, hey, I'm part of a podcast group. Why don't you be on it? And most of them are like, oh, sure. So
I'm real good at emailing people, so I'll do that.
This is true. Yeah. So we're going to have lots of exciting people who then will connect us to their exciting people. And it's just going to be this huge circle. So we'll start having guest podcasters fairly soon because I think we're going to run out of stuff to talk about.
I'll never run out of stuff.
Or maybe not.
When Amy wanted to go meet Shannon Hale and ask her, she literally like grabbed my arm and dragged me into line with her.
And
I was
then
like,
you
I
left.
don't want to do that.
And then it was just me. And I was like, I'm changing the name to the writing gal because I'm the only one who cares about this.
No. I can write just fine. You're the one that is like the talking gal or the meeting people and asking them to do things gal.
She had to shrink that to the meeting people and talking to people gal. What like thing would that be? It's okay. We all have a skill, and my
Amy
skill is the Amy show. I like that. So, but now I just expect all of you to help me talk to the person as we ask
I'll
them
be
on our
just
show.
fine at that part. Once they're already not going to reject me, I'll be perfectly happy to talk to them.
And we'll probably let you know a week in advance who we'll have, so that way if you want to read any of their books as the writing gals and have questions for them, that would be great. And we'll probably do a bio on them as well, so you kind of know what they specialize in. So, anyways, I think we're done, unless anybody raises their hand and wants to talk more. I think we're
Let's
good.
just get offline and then we'll talk more.
We kept you guys up late enough, so
Yeah.
you don't want to see this part of the conversation.
Thanks for staying up late with us, everybody.